Alrighty. Well, maybe we start then.
Yeah, sounds good.
Alrighty. So, Lianne, you and I have worked together in the past, and I think that this is this interesting domain on lean, which is both passion of you and me, and also safety. So, what I observe is that still these domains are quite separated. So do you see that as well? And do you have any clue why that is?
Yeah, I definitely see that as well. And I do think that it's a matter of time and that at one point it won't be separated again. I do think that, that lean maybe, yeah, that we in, let's say, in the Western world, that we took over lean with a thought of like how they did that in Toyota and try to apply that, like, okay, we can use this, to gain efficiency in the production, and there's money in it and we can gain something there. And I think that's a bit how it started maybe here in let's say in the Western world. And I think now slowly we start to realize that, wait a minute, the way we think about, lean and, operational excellence, that's, why is that actually different, applying it to safety or, sometimes you have also, separate quality departments. And yeah, why would you apply something to the production environment and then suddenly you have, separate safety? I think it is how we started to apply it here in the Western world. And then I think you see a movement of bringing things together and to get a kind of holistic view. So, and I think it should be, to be honest.
Yeah, and why do you think it? Why do you think that it should be together?
Well, if you start thinking like what is lean or what is operational excellence, and you start thinking about, a mindset and behaviors about, continuous improving and every day want to be better, to set, goals for yourself. You think, of course, have voice of the customer. And all these things, why is it different for, if you would apply it on safety? It's about a mindset. It's about behaviors. It's about, improving, making it safer, every day. And also, do you, even if you think about the voice of the customer, as a customer, do you want to buy from a supplier, is a very unsafe place to work? So all these things, yeah, it's not different. So if I look at it like that, then yeah, to me, it's almost sounds strange not to apply it in the same way or to bring it together. And then I think we're not talking about yet how it is for people who work somewhere, just as an employee, that you would work somewhere. You think, okay, I wanna, improve my way of working, or maybe the process I'm working on. Oh, wait a minute. If we talk about safety, I have to apply a different philosophy, or I suddenly approach it differently. Yeah, and if I just say it aloud like this, then yeah, I think it is strange. And of course, there are maybe differences, but I think if you bring it up really to these big, elements or topics, then I think it's similar and should be similar.
Yeah. What I find interesting is sometimes when you start talking to people, like new people, and you talk about safety and the quality of the processes, and basically focused on being focused on risk reduction and having minimal risk for working towards zero. And then if you bring up the topic of let's remove waste from these processes, they go like, but this is not an efficiency project, right?
Yeah.
This is so why do you think that is?
Yeah, I think that they fear, or they fear. No, I think that maybe for too long, if you see it something separately, and safety is something that is so delicate, because you can easily say in the process, like, oh, we can take this out, or this is not good. But if you talk about safety, it seems all that people start choosing, like, okay, which word do I use, because I cannot say this, because maybe it's about if I go wrong here and something is unsafe and somebody gets hurt, that's a far, let's say, higher risk also personally than if you would run a wrong batch or something. And I do think that that it's a kind of fear to just apply the same methodology. And at one point, it's also a bit about trusting that a certain methodology works, that you will see the results. But I think it also comes back a little bit is that we have seen it from the start as a different approaches. So if you, for example, say we're going to look at the process here, and we want to make things better in a general way. Yeah, if you just say indeed, we want to take out waste, maybe now often we don't take that safety, we don't put the safety glasses on, or we forget about it. But if you really want to see it as a holistic thing, and you can optimize it, and you start whatever how you start to optimize your process, you immediately should also take safety into perspective, into your goal. It's not only about maybe the efficiency in your process, but also in the same time you want to try to improve safety. And to be honest, why people don't want to look at just the waste. Maybe it is because they feel we are now working on safety, and the focus should be 100% on safety, and it doesn't go together, which again I think comes back on where we started our conversation on like why do we see this as different things.
Yeah. It's interesting. The pushback is almost like instantly. So no, this is about safety. We need to take the time that is needed to do this really well.
Yeah.
But if you then kind of inspire them to kind of at least look at it, and there's different tools also in Lean to look at waste, for example, the DELO, right, a day in the life of.
Mm-hmm.
And if they then start to notice, there's lots of stuff in there that really is not adding value at all. Right, and of course there's like two categories: adding value to the end customer, which is a separate domain, but I think also the safety domain is like incremental, right? It helps get you to that point. But what if you notice there and you say, okay, there's like waiting and transport and all these things that are actually not adding value neither to safety nor to the end product, and if we can remove those, then we have suddenly the time we can spend better, and you actually see the quality increase and the compliance increase because people have some time. Because I think that is often the only relationship that is made is between waste reduction and efficiency. And I think that is basically the wrong idea. I think you should really focus on waste reduction if you want to improve quality and also compliance in this safety domain, because people, when they have to wait for an hour, they're fed up and they just want to get started, and they don't want to listen and do a proper last minute risk assessment. It just give me the damn permit or whatever they need to start.
And I totally agree. I do think that that it's almost, if you could get people to believe, like if you just improve your safety, if you improve your quality, like you say, then you will, in the end, also you increase your efficiency. It's almost like turning it around, but then it starts also a little bit more with the belief, which is always maybe harder to sell. But I do think so, and it was actually not long ago that somebody said to me, I heard somebody else saying, if you focus on cost, your quality will go down, but if you focus on your quality, your cost will also go down. And it's almost a bit that twist that I think that if you are able to put these different classes on and look at your look at your process with your safety glass, with your quality, with your efficiency, and try these different perspectives. If you're not able to do it in one go, then you see so much more.
Yeah. So I think also, if you take Lean as a starting point, one of the concepts is, of course, the circle, with waste being one part only, and unevenness and overburden as being the other components. So do you still use this concept, or how is this? Do you look at it from time to time, or where is it in your mind?
I must say I'm not often, let's say, put it really there, but it's always in the back of your mind, because I think it's so obvious in every day's work, no matter where you are in the process, because you very quickly feel like, hey, this process is not going this well. It has bumps in the road. There's unevenness, and you see it back in the people, whether it's the pressure, whether they're frustrated, whether they are bored, and these behaviors. Yeah, that's what you I think the first notice when you talk to people, when you are in meetings with people. I think there are the first signals like, hey, something is wrong, so it's not that I that I often have that on my screen or like have it on my wall, but it is a kind of trigger that on a daily basis pops up almost.
Yeah, it's interesting to start, lean often associated with like tech time and creating some kind of flow, right? And I think also intuitively you already know when there's no flow, when there's something blocking or hicking up, and I think that's kind of interesting. And at that moment, to bring out all the tools but really start talking to people. What's happening here? And
I think that's a good point, because I've worked with people who have been working with Lean for a long time, or indeed know all the tools and applied many things, but also with groups of people who've never or maybe heard about it, but that was it. And if you start, if you with a group of people who maybe don't know the methodology that well, and if you indeed start asking questions about, okay, but if you now look at the things that you do on a daily basis, where do you feel the frustration, or where do you think, oh, there we go again, or where do you think I actually don't want to do this? And sometimes it helps just to ask, these questions, and from there you can start, dive a bit deeper. But just to also tell them that signal is often something that is an opportunity to start working on. And sometimes people not even realize it. They almost take it as a matter of fact. Yeah, that's part of what is happening, and that you get stuck in.
It's always like that. Things. You have to wait for an hour or two.
Yeah. So I think it is in that sense. Yeah, it's very powerful to start there. Yeah. Just because you bring the awareness a slightly different angle, indeed, then immediately want to put the big let's say tools out, because they almost miss the step of the why, of the really understanding why you also do things.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So is the why. So I think that the core of Lean was always culture, right? It's about letting people see that they can change something around them. And of course, also finding the people that want to do that, and just look around daily, what's happening over with me, and how, if I don't like what's happening in terms of value, how can I change that, right? So you probably as well encounter like lots of people when you start asking these questions. So what is bothering you, frustrating you, got complacent about over time? So how do you move them from the state of, that is how things are, to I'll do whatever it takes to get rid of it?
Yeah, that's the crux. That's always like, if you solve that one, it's interesting, because it's always a question that I don't find easy to answer, because there is no easy answer there. Nevertheless, I always think that, and that's why it's not the quick. It's never a quick fix. It is about, you first need to connect to people to understand what drives them, to understand what is their culture, or what is the reason why they behave maybe like they behave, and start connecting. What is bothering them, what do they see as not good, or maybe they see as good. And of course, the voice of the customer and adding value, that's in the end where you want to have them to think about, and what can be better. But I think first you really need to connect to them, and to find out a bit what is their problem, And once you have the connection and you can see like, hey, you have problem frustrations or things that are hard and you actually can influence it. They start believing that they actually can contribute to it. Then you can take it bigger, take it wider. You can take it, to what maybe else the leadership wants to do. And that's a bit, what I mean with a personal approach. And of course, there is a lot of other things that need to be in place as well, as your leadership needs to be very clear on how they want to do it, and they need to be able to empower people. But if you have a group of people and you have individuals that are maybe never used to or don't believe at all, like, okay, I can actually influence my own work or the process for the better. Then I think you first have to connect to the people and understand, where's that coming from.
Yeah, actually, I think that also might be one of the reasons why Kaizens can work. And because then you have a bit more time to connect, to truly understand what's going on with the people, and also with the daily kind of feedbacks between management and like the work group. Break a little bit up the standard roles of instruction versus execution, and empower people more to kind of actually take full responsibility for something and then align their proposal with management instead of tell me what to do. Yeah.
No, I think in this Kaizens are very powerful, because they get in a short moment they get almost the empowerment, but also it's almost if you step out your daily job, you get an example of how you really want to have leadership, management interacting with the workforce, and they feel empowered, they can improve something, and they see immediately the result after that. A few days that you work on something.
Yeah.
So I do think that it's almost like it's the perfect world, but then you step, of course, in your daily job again, and then how do you make sure that they still feel the empowerment, that they still see that they can do that themselves as well. That's then the important thing. But I love in that sense the energy that you always feel also in these type of events, and you see them realizing, this is how it can work. Yeah, true.
So if you make the transition from the event to the daily life, so what do you see as the things that really work?
How to make it work.
Yeah. I mean. So you've thought of this great solution. You even tested it in lab or in a situation where all the stakeholders involved can test, and you make a plan about how are we going to bring this to the site, and then you go full throttle.
Yeah.
But then you also hit, of course, the daily bumps in the road, and everybody's distracted with other things again. So what are the things for you that actually work?
Well, one thing that's at least is crucial, and every situation, of course, is different. But I do think what you really want to have in place is, you could call it leader stand-up work. But what you do want to have is that the management or the leaders that are also in the end responsible for the process, that they go out, whether it's on a daily basis or on an hourly basis, depending on what the improvement is about. And to say, hey, is it still going well? To ask questions, to look, to support, to help. If the bumps are coming, that people can escalate and that they feel they are supported. But also that it's not like, it's fixed now and you sort it on your own and you left on your own. Now, I think to immediately have that, and not for one day, 1 week, but to have with the right frequency that supports. I think that's definitely one thing that's I think that can really work, because if somebody truly does that and there are problems, then they will be solved there, because the questions are asked and whatever then what is needed can be picked up. But it sounds with all these things it sounds so easy, but quite quickly daily things take also the manager over for like, oh, yeah, I tended this to do this, but the real commitment to do that. That's I think
going out there in directly, and again I think connecting and seeing on the spot what's going on. I think that's...
Yeah, and also not one day after and only 1 week after, but to keep going there. With of course, depending on what it is with the right frequency, but it's easy to think at one point, oh, it's done, it's set. But then that's when it gets harder.
Yeah, and I think also what I've seen working, if you kind of collaborate in where to focus the management attention, right? Because that in phases throughout the project, that might change a little bit. Start off with just test the plan, go out there, talk to people. But sometimes you see these like hard points in the process. For example, if you're changing, if you want to be more stable, you have to get a little bit more planning in place and more control. So then sit in the planning meeting, because designing the planning meeting, saying, okay, this is what we do, this is who is attending, and this should be the end result, doesn't always work. People need coaching and help and like tuning in getting these really hard processes really working. Because they have an idea, but I think that is where you, as a manager, can have like the most value in coaching in these tough areas.
Yeah. No, I agree there as well, and I think that sometimes managers feel like, but I'm not the expert. I don't have something to bring there. For example, I'm not a planner, so what, or even the people in the meeting think like, yeah, but you can come here and maybe sit in my meeting, but you know exactly how this works. So what can you learn? But of course, that's not what it's about, and I think it really works to join indeed the meeting. Yeah. So indeed, if you compare to. Sometimes I think the Gemba walks or go and see that should be on the really where the machines are, or otherwise it doesn't work. But it works as well for actually any meeting. That if you say there's a change there, we have a theory. The practical side of it is often totally different. And sometimes just the fact that you show this is important to me. Can people motivate or even make that extra step, or thinking, okay, we really can do this, instead of, okay, we said that we do this, but what is actually going to help? You can fall back in how you always did it, rather than going for that, for that change. Yeah.
Interesting. So what do you see, these improvement processes where you focus and you do a Kaizen and then you take it into the plant? So you've worked in quite a few countries. So what do you see in terms of cultural differences in running these improvement processes?
Yeah, big differences. The funny thing is, there are huge, for me, if I would say immediately, big differences. At the same time, sometimes it comes down to the same thing. So what I do see different as a big difference is that the way companies run. So, for example, how's the relationship between the managers and the leaders and the employees? That's culturally very different. And now back in the Netherlands, and I noticed that we as Dutch, we like things flat, so we like to tell everyone what we think about everything and to have our opinion. And if you don't have an opinion, people will even look like, hey, you should have an opinion about it. And at other places, it's more like, okay, I listen to my manager, but I'm not gonna, challenge him, especially not, with people around. Or maybe in a one-to-one, I will, tell what I think about it. And also that difference is already, of course, makes that you maybe approach a change differently. And also it makes it more difficult or easier for a manager to join one of the meetings, to sit in. because people will quicker feel like, hey, I'm judged now, or what did I wrong that you have to come to my meeting. So these type of things, and then I just mentioned too, make a big difference. Or I immediately also have to think about Italy. I've been in Italy as well, different places. And there also, for example, the perception of what younger people should do, and someone who works already there longer, or just the age different. Yeah, if I'm above, and I don't know what the age was, but I'm already 50, so I cannot do this job anymore. Very fit person, but the fact that he was above 50, that made a difference in people, and also the young people said, yeah, no, but he's old. And I just mentioned little things, but something that you would never find somewhere else. And I think, although you have all these culture differences, at the same time, if you probably if you go there and you're relatively new, and you start looking at an organization, and you start looking, okay, what is the culture here? What are the behaviors? I think you always take a kind of you don't have a one size fits all. You start tailoring it to what's going on, what is the history. So yes, I would say there are cultural differences, and yes, you should really take them into account, but almost as if, hey, you would every organization, you would take into account that it has a history, and it has a workforce that has their own experiences. So yeah, I don't know how you say that. Or if you of course you also come everywhere. How do you experience the culture differences?
Yeah, for me it's I think in essence people are uniquely the same, right? We come from the same gene pool, and there's this like layer on the outer ring where we kind of differ. But I think in the essence. People are set up for collaboration, with all the. So it's again finding that spot. I think in some cultures it really helps to have a clear hierarchy in place, right? To have clear structure. Okay, this is what we do. This is the domain that is decided for you, and this is the domain where you can decide. And making that clear actually helps the group go forward. Where if you make that too clear, for example, in the Dutch culture, I think, like the flat culture, they immediately start challenging whatever you brought to the table, which is not helpful for their, it's sometimes better to leave that alone a bit and kind of gently focus them on where they would be most productive. But I think in essence, it's almost being as being not culturally aware can actually help you.
Yeah, I see what you mean. Yeah,
and of course, having a mindset of respect and interest really helps.
Yeah, and I think indeed that's everywhere the same. That if you connect to the people, that's the starting point of everything, and that's everywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So let me check what we. So if you thought that I had a hard question with asking you how do you move from Kaizens to smoothless operation, if you think that was the $1 million question, I have two other.
Okay.
So you've been both a manager and like a lean facilitator. So first, from your perspective as a manager, if we talk about this ultimate goal, 0, really getting to a situation where we do not have any incidents anymore. So from the perspective of the manager, what does it take to get there.
Yeah, I have been thinking about this, let's say, the goal of zero, let's say, incidents, and it really took me back to when I was just finished university, and I think I was, last year you visit different companies just to see what they're doing, or maybe you want to join them. And I walked into one of the companies, and they said so strictly, you have to hold the handrail. And I was like, fuck, my goodness, what is this all this fuss about? Because they were so strict, and we were with a group of students, and they were constantly watching, hey, hold the handrail, hold the handrail. And I often have to think back of it, because I really find it kind of ridiculous. And then years later, I now understand, and I'm very aware if at a moment, that I actually can't hold the handrail, or if my kids, can't, hold the handrail. And realize that, a safety mindset, or seeing the value, it's something that has to grow. You cannot, from zero, from no, thoughts about safety to believe that that's possible, a zero waste, zero safety and incident environment. And I think what is important is that I'm not sure if I even can say now that I fully believe that's possible. And I think that's important to be honest about it. And to have that conversation with your people, because I think it's very easy to say something like, this is what we need to achieve, and you all need to believe it. And then there's nobody can actually tell you, but I don't think that it's possible. Because I do think that you need to have the conversation, like, why do you think it's not possible? And to dig deeper there. So, yeah, as a management perspective, I think it's better to focus on the small steps. To say, okay, where are we now, and what can be better? Okay, and to cut it down. It's almost like in any kind, if you think about sports, hey, you can say, yeah, I want to be Olympic champion, but if you tell that to 12-year-old, yeah, it's too far away. It's too. So step by step, and I think that's what can help, because I find it hard to imagine myself what real zero, if is that really possible.
Yeah, I think it's what you say is interesting, because then you can also, if you say, okay, of course it's about the small steps. But it seems that you could actually use the topic of zero to kind of draw out a reaction.
Yeah.
But if you ask people, okay, what's a good idea on improving safety, and then we'll go like in a mode, okay, we could do that and that and that and that. But if you ask them, okay, what is it going to take to get to zero? Then they go like, but that's a different mindset, and then they might even come up with the tough decisions. And the things that are really hard to change.
It's a good question to pull people out of their comfort zone.
Exactly.
And it is the question. Yeah, like I said, that often make me think. Like, I feel that I don't really believe in it. So why is that? Why is it? Why do I think that certain things we cannot do that? So it's it's almost a philosophical question there.
It is. Yeah. So, and as a lean expert.
Yeah, as a lean expert, I would say it's a perfect goal to put out there, and to trust the methodology, to say, okay, this is how we do today, but this is what we want to achieve. So we're gonna find a way. That's a bit more the put the head up as almost like a facilitator, is that every time that you start somewhere, you think like maybe a little voice like, are we really gonna make this happen? But every time you see that if you approach it the way you always approach it, use the methodology, and that you get there. So that's more from let's say a lean facilitator perspective.
And I think it's also, even if you look like with lean at a very well defined process. It's every day is the same actions, and of course that is not the case with safety. The domain is very wide, the amount of activities very wide. So I think there's also so much room for improvement. It sometimes feels that we just started, right, in organizing this.
Yeah, and it's really something that people take home. Huh?
Yeah.
So I find that an interesting part as well. Is that, yeah, I think it has so much to do with behaviors, and like you said, it's so broad, so many. No matter actually what you do in the different ways, also on the way home, or when you start cooking at home, or if you go out walking, it doesn't matter. It's suddenly everything,
Yeah.
It's related to it. So
yeah, a while back I was in a conversation which touched the topic of a fatal incident, and so it was an emotional conversation, and one of the attendants actually said, if we could only bottle the emotion in this conversation and kind of bring it out like as a vaccine throughout the world, then what step can we make, right? And I think you say how you could bring it home, but people are also, they forget easy.
Yeah, and I would almost say faithfully forget easy, but yeah, for some things it doesn't really help.
No.
Yeah. No, if you could really feel the impact, and indeed you cannot bottle these moments, but I can remember the moments that people shared, something like an experience. I can remember where I was sitting, because it does have an impact. So yes, it fades off. Yes, we don't feel it the same, but still we do remember. And if I now hold the handrail, I remember the people who told me I lost a friend because he didn't. And if I tell my boy, you should hold the handrail, and he says, no, Mama, I really take good care of myself, or I can do this. I was like, I know. I said, but and sometimes explain then the story that I didn't hear. So I do think that we cannot bottle it, but I think how we do use it in many cases, to share this experience and to show then the emotions that go with it, and how tough it is and how hard it is, and it does, I think, has an effect. Although not everyone likes it. They say, now why do I have to see it, or why do I have to? I don't want to share this emotion. But I think stories stick, and especially, of course, if we see that that something had a real impact to someone.
Yeah. I'm betting that you, at this moment, you cannot walk a stairs without holding the handrail, right?
No. It is. You are so. Yeah. It is funny to say. It's like, and if I don't, I feel bad about it, because I'm like, I'm taking a risk which is not necessary.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And so there are more little things that you change in your, let's say, daily life. But there are also things that I'm still not understand sometimes from yourself, why you maybe don't change it. A simple example, that's wearing a helmet on your bike. Yeah. Living in the UK, I told my boy he was not allowed to go on his bike without a helmet. In the Netherlands, I let him go without a helmet. And on my normal bike, I don't put a helmet on. On my mountain bike, on my racing bike, I put a helmet on, but on my normal bike, I don't. Okay. Yeah, go slower. I talk, I give reasons why I think I should be allowed. But at the same time, I feel in everything like, oh, this is not correct, or it's not. I'm not really honest to myself. I should just wear the helmet.
Yeah, it's interesting, because you see it we've seen it in skiing, right?
Yes. Yeah.
What is it? 10, 15 years ago, nobody was wearing a helmet, and then all of a sudden,
yeah. I was watching. I think I did a lot of whitewater kayaking.
Yeah.
And well, safe. You always you have a river which is, well, there's always danger. You look actually for the danger because it's also the thrill. Of course, you wear a helmet, you know, and a safety vest and things like that. But yeah, look at the older video, and yeah, you hit people without helmets. Yeah, and it always was for me that you could clearly see the change. And the skiing, I think, is a good example as well. Is that yeah, even if you maybe search for the thrill or the danger, yeah, it doesn't mean that you should try as best protect yourself. But yeah, on the bike, I still don't take my own advice. Yeah.
Great. Do you have questions for me?
Well, I'm very curious what else you hear in other conversations that you have about
No, what I see is this is kind of a movement, right? Bringing these things together. And it's interesting. You started by mentioning quality as also being somewhat outside of
sometimes,
sometimes. Yeah. And it's actually interesting because it actually started as a quality movement.
Okay. Yeah.
No, it's about you know, Toyota having scarce resources, not enough people, not enough.
So that's what I mean. Yeah.
How can we stop doing stupid stuff that costs us resources? And now, so I think that's what's happening. And I think maybe it's also because lean has been associated with, okay, guys, we need to cut costs. We're bringing in the lean people, and now we're doing cost cutting, and so people go like, who's going to lose their jobs if we start doing this?
Yeah.
So I think it's really necessary to unlink that. You know, lean is a way of thinking about improving stuff, and not necessarily about finding the right people to fire. I think that is key, and I think that's what's happening. And what I find is people are interested in the topic. You know, how do you combine this successfully?
Yeah, and I do think it's also maybe has to do with how we sometimes try to train people. I don't know how what your experience is there, but often we would like to train people in lean, in the philosophy, and very quickly we show a typical manufacturing example, or look, this is nice because you can reduce cost here because you do this and this, and that's for them. Then lean is, efficiency gain in your production process, and by that we already put the boundaries around it to say this is how you can think about it. And I think, if we start from a different,
if you even look at like all the lean training up to the black belts, of course there's a lot of statistics in there. What test do we design for this? But I think the essence, of course, that is like the foundation layer that you have to have in place to start thinking about it. But what we started this conversation, what is critical? Getting people in a mode to share stuff, to be open, to kind of think of themselves as a person that can actually change something, and then bringing the fixed management in place and letting them be clear and open, empowering these guys. So I think what can also be a problem if you approach these changes from a culture perspective, and you bring in a culture consultant, and everybody talks, and you work in the environment, but then it's so damn hard the next day to do something practical. I think the opportunity of the projects we do is that you do the analytical stuff that needs to happen in combination with culture. But if you go on one side and you do only the analytics, it's really hard to make your really smart solution stick. if you all go on the culture side, everybody is in the right mode, but it's really hard to get a concrete solution for something.
Yeah, totally true.
And I think in lean training, really is a gap in the soft side. And the other side, I don't know, because I read a lot about it, but I'm not a trained facilitator in that sense. But that is what I notice. I think the people training lean their background is usually engineering, analytics, and they kind of say, yeah, it's also important to do a group session, but it gets fake very quickly.
Yeah. No, I think it's true. You need both. Yeah.
Exactly. That's why it's such a fun job.
Yeah, exactly. Yes.
Alrighty. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.